Hello, and welcome back to Xpwaste, where Michael was generous enough to let me blow dry my monstrous hair before this week's episode, so I don't have the wet bedhead look. Hi, I'm Oxie.
And I'm Michael, the generous person. If this is your first time listening to Xpwaste, we thank you and welcome you to the show. We're an old school Runescape podcast. You guessed it. You're here for it. We're going to talk about all things old school Runescape. Talk about the news, talk about things happening in the game, things we love about the game. If you're not new around here, sometimes you lose the game. And it happens. So I lost the game. I did it.
So millennial, it hurts sometimes. You know that?
LOL. I just watched a TikTok that's like, you know you're a millennial if you end your text in these three ways. And I end them in all three ways. It's LOL, haha, or crying, laughing emoji. And that's me every day. So
see, I hate that because I also do the same thing.
We're millennial through and through, brother. But
I don't know if I want to be associated.
Frick, I think
with
you're
that.
Gen X. You're
I'm definitely
Gen Z.
not
Sorry,
Gen X.
Z.
What?
You're Z. Yeah, you're a Zoomer. Zillennial? I don't know. Anyway,
Born in '96. I'm on the cusp. Who knows? Who cares?
you're an elder.
Who knows?
You're an elder Zoomer, and I'm a baby
Pretty
millennial.
much, yeah.
Anyway, how are you today, Sir Zoomer?
Did you welcome the old folks back?
Yeah,
or
I said
no?
if you're not new
Did we
around here,
not?
you lost the game.
Oh, you were
You were just so distracted by losing the game.
No, I was so distracted by just the awful trends, just the simply awful reoccurring
You gotta
bits on this show.
you gotta throw it in there every 6 episodes, keep people on their toes.
You really don't have.
You really
to.
do. How are we going to
Just
teach
as
the
a
next
thought.
generation unless we keep traditions alive?
Oh,
It's going to
Well-
be like 50 years from now, and no one's going to know they lost the game unless we keep it going.
I don't think we need. Anyways, I just saw someone in Edgeville whose IGN is girl, and that's a pretty good name. Just GIRL,
Neat.
girl. I wonder how much they paid for that one.
Billions.
Oh, it's been a week, man. It's been quite the week. I don't know what I have actually accomplished on my main account. I don't think I've done many CAs. I think the notable thing from this week is I got to wave 10 in Coliseum. I think that's the extent of like the cool things that I did on my main. And I only died on wave 10 because I'm just an idiot. And I had a Serpent Shaman and a Minotaur on the north side of the northwestern pillar. And I couldn't kill the Serpent Shaman. The Minotaur was just healing it too much. So I figured I might as well give it the Nibbler treatment where you kind of like run to the corner and hit it from there. But I didn't run far enough south. And when I ran, or I didn't run far enough west, rather, to attack the Minotaur. And when I did, I drug myself out and I got double ranged and just clobbered, which did not feel great. So that sucked because the Manticore, I think one of the Manticores was already dead. So it was like, it didn't really phase me too much, but it just is unfortunate how that wave ended because we definitely could have made it to wave 11 with that. So, oh well, guess we'll get there again eventually. Other than that, though, I don't know why. I think it was maybe Tuesday night. Was it Tuesday night when we were having our tech meeting?
Yeah, Tuesday.
With Tiki. So we were having a meeting on Tuesday night with Tiki,
Wednesday
integrating
night.
tech into the Discord for bingo. Was it Wednesday?
Yeah, because
Who
it was
knows?
after
Who
I watched
cares?
Survivor. But anyway.
Sure, it was Wednesday. Either way, we're sitting chatting about whatever, and I was talking about needing like new equipment. Like I just need Barrows gear. Like I'm sick of having enchanted gear on my iron. So I went to Barrows, did one run, and was like, man, I probably should like train my skills up through Slayer, but I hate doing Slayer because I just despise changing spell books on this account. Like, because when I was a baby main, I would just go to World 330 and do it there, But now, obviously, I can't do that as an Iron man. So I did a little bit of Pyramid Plunder while talking to Michael and Tiki, and I actually did get a Pharaoh Scepter, which I thought was hysterical, but then couldn't charge it because they didn't have enough gold artifacts. So I had to go back in and get more gold artifacts. And on the second run back after getting my Pharaoh Scepter, I got Rocky at like 74 thieving in like room 3, which I thought was pretty funny. Nuke Moose just said, "Am I a joke to you?" and sent a picture of the magic cape. Nuke Moose, I see your magic cape, and I will raise you my current magic level on the GAM. For those of you not in the recording booth chat, it's 80. I'm so far away from 99 mage on this account, it's not even funny. So I just am not, I wasn't a fan. I got the Pharaoh Scepter and then started the long and arduous grind of trying to build the damn altar. I knew Michael was going to send his 99. I just knew it. We'll get there though. We'll save that for Michael's week. Yeah, the long arduous grind of trying to get the room built is miserable because turns out you can't use a saw boost to get a new room. So I got the 77 boost after playing Boostscape for a while, which is as fun as it always is. And then I couldn't build I still couldn't build the room. Then I had to get up to 75, and then I had to play Boostscape again. And then I got the boost I needed, built the room, built the altar, built the first jewelry box, upgraded my little pool so I could have the prayer pool now. And just like, I technically have enough logs if I turn them into planks. I technically have enough logs to get myself a max house. Like I have the logs to get myself to like 82 or 83 construction, something like that. Man, it's not bad. Mahogany Homes isn't terrible. It's just, man, I don't know if I want that. You know what I'm saying? So we're hanging out, and that's what I've been up to. But I finally have the altar. I have everything, and now I'm doing this godforsaken worms task on my iron. And that's where I'm at. I don't know if I mentioned it last week. I finally got my blue backpack. I think like the night after we finished that recording, I got it relatively spooned. Used our Fang. Turns out melee Vorkath with a Fang is way better than whatever dog shit setup I had been using. I cut my kill time to like 2.5 minutes, and that's a much more tolerable kill time for me to do Vorkath.
That's good.
I was just saying, that's the thing. Like I enjoy Vorkath, and I know how not to like miss ticks and shit. Like it felt good. It just doesn't feel good with my shitty Iron Man range gear. But yeah, we're out here. We're gaming, you know. That's pretty much all I've done this week. I did a lot of IRL yard work yesterday, which is why I had to come home and take such a long shower because I've been disgusting. But yeah, what have you been up to, brother?
It's been a busy week for me. I'm trying to like categorize or catalog everything that has actually happened. After we recorded on Sunday, I went to my nephew's birthday party and got food poisoning from there, apparently, or something.
Fun.
Because there was a handful of people that went to that birthday party who at almost the same time all started having food poisoning symptoms. I won't go into it. I've already gone into it with Oxie and he hated it. So it was bad. Tuesday night, I woke up. It was bad. So I didn't have the best week. Still got the episode edited by the skin of my teeth, I feel like. So the episode came out on time. I was fully prepared for last week's episode to like come out on Friday or Saturday. I thought I was going to die. It was bad. So my wife and I both got it. That's the worst part. It's like when you're a parent and both of you are down for the count, but the kid is fully healthy, it feels like, I don't even know what it feels like. It's the worst thing. Some parents out there are able to relate, but for me, like despite all that, it was a really productive week after I started feeling better. I've been very close to 2K total for a while, just with all the random like rune crafting levels I've gotten. And so I decided after I had made all of the planks that I was going to make, it got me to like close to 99 magic and 1998 total. So I went and finished out I think it was like the rune crafting level I was already close to. And that got me to 1999. And then I was 250k away from 99 magic. So I got 99 magic and 2k total at the same time. And it was a cool experience. Like getting 99s all over again has felt special. Not as special, right? Because like it's not my first time I'm ever getting 99 magic, but it's the first time on this account. And also hitting 2k total was really fun and really special because it's like it's a big number to me. Like you're not necessarily like in the end game of skilling or total levels. I feel like 2100, 2200 totals end game, but I digress. I got 2k total, 99 magic, and what else happened? Been doing a lot of Mahogany Homes. I'm up to 83, almost 84 construction. Just planked a bunch of the gauntlet. Oh gosh, it's been an experience. with me in the gauntlet this week because 2 times in the corrupted gauntlet, I've gotten it down to 25 HP, and they were back to back. So like I died.
Those are rough.
25
Those are rough
HP.
to watch.
And then the second time, 25 HP, or around 27. I don't know. And it's just so demoralizing that I had to send a regular gauntlet to remind myself that I can still do it. And even that took me 11 minutes. I'm like, this is the longest fight ever. Why is this? Why is my bow just not hitting? Because like I was praying for the range phase or the mage phase to come back so that I could actually do DPS. I mean, I'm 90.
You have rigor. With
I do have rigor,
mage,
but it just was like for that specific kill, it just wasn't happening. I don't know. Sometimes the things just don't hit, and it wasn't hitting. It took me 11 minutes to kill the regular gauntlet. I mean, the total time with prep and everything. But yeah, me and the corrupted gauntlet are not on good terms, and I think I'm at a crossroads. I feel like I'm at a crossroads. At least it's maybe not the universal crossroads, but for me, this is a crossroads where I can either keep banging my head against the wall for a little bit longer, and eventually I know I'll get it, or I can just stop. And I know I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to stop, but I feel like I'm at a crossroads because I want to just stop. I can't explain it. I know Oxie's judging me silently, potentially. It's like, brother, you just got to get in there. You just got to do it. Do the things that make you uncomfortable. I can hear him saying that. And I know he's not responding.
With that deep southern twang, too.
That's your voice in my head. But this corrupted gauntlet is just not, it's not clicking for some reason. And I don't know if it's because I decided to like brute force tier 1 prep with the armor. And I need to go back to like committing to tier 2 and failing even if I can't. So last night, I got tier 2 armor, but then I ran out of time and I only had like 10 food. And so it's like, I'm screwed one way and I'm screwed the other, you know? And I died on that run. I feel like I'm complaining a lot. Not trying to complain. It's just my week with Corrupted Gauntlet. So what else did I do? I'm still in this like headspace of things are taking a long time. I mentioned it last week briefly, but like I'm looking at my skills. I'll log in. I'm looking at my skills and I know that things are just going to take a lot longer. So I'm trying to refocus this. I like refocus in this era of my account to be like, you know what? If it takes me, what is this? Hold on. So I have 281K. So I'm like, okay, if it takes me 10 hours of making blood runes, at least I got the level. At least I get to 85. And I'll tackle the XP and the hours once I get to 85. We'll think about 86 then. You have to kind of reframe where your head's at with like the longer grinds as you start to progress your account. You can't be like 86 is my goal. I'm 83 right now. Like you have to take it one level at a time. I'm making that mental switch because for the longest time, being in the high 60s, high 70s, whatever, levels were faster. But now I'm looking at hours and hours and hours of grinds to get the things that I used to just get pretty easily. So these are the things I think about when I'm asked how my week is. And I don't know. But other than that, everything's better at the house. We're not all as sick anymore. It's been nice. The weather's been super nice. I have the weirdest kid, and I say this with all the love in my heart. He loves to swim. And yesterday, it rained in the morning, and it was like maybe in the 60s or 70s. And then by the early afternoon, we had walked down to the farmer's market, and it was like sunny and hot and like in the 80s walking back. And we were all sweaty, really hot. I'm like, bud, do you want to jump in the pool when we get home? He's like, yeah. I didn't realize it was going to be so cold, but he just jumps in there, starts swimming like it's nothing. And I get in there, I'm like, ah! like cringing. But he loves to swim. And like in freaking February in Texas, he's like, can we go swimming? You can. I'll sit there and watch. Whatever. And then he's doing this typical kid thing where he doesn't want to admit that something is bad because he wants to keep doing it. So I'm like, Bubba, are you cold? He's like, no. And like I can see his lip is quivering. Like it's okay to say it's cold, I'm not going to make you get out. I just want to know if you're uncomfortable. He's like, okay. You're a weirdo.
He's a real one. He's a tough kid.
He's a real one, dude. He's a real one. Yeah. So it's been a good week. It's been a good week. And still in the job hunt, still in the job search. If anybody was keeping up with that, I should hear back soon on a couple of different offers next week. So about around the time this episode comes out, hopefully Michael has a job. But I feel like that was a pretty quick recap.
It was, yeah. Maybe not a lot went on. That's like recap worthy.
Sure. We can recap a little bit of this news post. So there's been a lot happening within the world of updates in old school RuneScape because there's two main avenues that Jagex is taking when it comes to updates. Yama and whatever is happening with the Delve boss. So like we're really focused on Armour 3. And they did some various QOL changes this week, or last week rather, and that was super nice. The Delve boss, I feel like is such a thorn in their side. And I feel so bad for them at this point. Like, I feel like we've had at least 3 or 4 different like news post blog thing updates of them being like, you know what, we're gonna go back to the drawing board on this one. And then that feedback was really insightful. We're gonna go back to the drawing board. And we're on like iteration 4 of rewards for Asat Yet or whatever his name is.
Osto Ayak, I think.
Okay. Osto Ayak. But this last round of changes they just posted about is talking about how the magic upgrade to the tormented bracelets is changing again. So before you would attach them to your tormented bracelets and it would essentially make 4-tick weapons buffed. And they're like, well, that is good for the shadow because the shadow's 5-tick. But then it also kind of nerfs other 5-tick, 6-tick stabs that you weren't intending to nerf. So it's like, okay, great feedback. Now we're going to make it to where only one-handed stabs can receive this benefit. Sure, that's fine. I think that's a good compromise for now. But they did address something in that blog post that talked about how they understand that the shadow is a problem child and they have to address it at some point. That's my interpretation of what they're saying. Is like, we know you guys are concerned with the shadow. We are too. Kind of dug ourselves into a hole, backed ourselves into a corner, and we know we have to address it, but we can't address it right now. Something has to change. So with all of that in mind, why don't we try and address it in a non-formal way? We're not game developers by any means. So we each came up with a few ideas on how we could potentially fix or change magic in old school RuneScape that could make a lot of people more happy and balance things out. Magic is such a complex subject when it comes to how magic is like utilized and all of that within our game. It's much more complex than you have runes, you click the spell fires, right? So you have range. Most of the time, you load an arrow into a bow, you shoot the arrow either hits or misses. There are some other factors involved, like how strong you are to pull the bow back. Are you accurate when you aimed? And then depending on if you hit...
You're talking about real life or in-game?
In-game. Like when you break it down. Is that not how it works? Range strength?
I mean...
range accuracy?
Range strength has nothing to do with how hard you pull the bow back. Range strength in my head is always translated to how hard the ammunition hits your target. Because the way you're describing it is how muscular are you to pull the string on a twisted bow all the way back to hit your opponent harder. When I think in my head, a dragon arrow is far more sound and like stable and sharp and will drive clean through your opponent if you need it to.
That's how
I've always understood it.
Well,
so I don't think it has anything to do with like your physical strength because that is another skill entirely. You know, range accuracy, as we've said, range accuracy is your attack roll in Dungeons and Dragons, and range strength is your damage roll in Dungeons and Dragons. And then you go against your opponent's AC, which is their defense level and their range level. Because most NPCs, I think this is true. It's one of those, like, it's never necessarily been not confirmed by anyone to me, but as far as I understand it, with NPCs, their offensive levels, at least a lot of the older ones like Barrows, their offensive levels dictate their defensive stats. So whereas players, it's a little bit different where like if you're in a PvP situation, both your defense level and your range level are considered. With NPCs, you have to look at their offensive stats for range and mage only. For melee, their defensive stats matter, but for some reason for range, which may have changed recently due to the project rebalance with the what's it called? The elemental and the heavy, light, or medium ammunition.
Yeah.
So we may have seen some changes there of like how these weaknesses may play into it, but as far as I remember, their offensive level is what dictates it. Where like that's how the twisted bow works. The twisted bow works on the mage level, which is like the not mage defense, but like the mage level, the offensive mage level of an opponent. So if you have one range level and one mage level, the twisted bow is going to be dog shit. But if you have, one range and one mage, the blowpipe with dragon darts is probably going to go real hard,
Yeah.
I don't know how that has changed for every NPC in the game. With some things like I'm killing worms right now, and combat stats wise, worms have 80 mage and 80 range. They're weak to stab for melee. They have an earth weakness, and they have a weakness to heavy bolts, but they're still not particularly strong against the other two types of ammunition. So like it is a lot that goes into it. It's not like, you draw your bow back with such force,
Yeah. Your analogy
but that's
makes more
a different
sense.
combat skill entirely.
Sure. I think melee, in terms of like a comparison of complexity versus simplicity, maybe melee is the better comparison here, where you have a sword, did you hit it and how hard did you hit it? In most cases, that's how melee works. But magic and range, I'll group it in range because after further discussion, range is actually kind of complex. But magic is quite the subject in terms of like, how do we balance magic in old school RuneScape? It's not as simple as just like you cast a spell and your spell hits, which
it was.
Yeah, it was because in the olden days, nobody was worried about like really high magic damage percentages. That's why a lot of the older gear doesn't actually give you magic damage percentage.
Most of it does now.
It does now.
Arims does now. Dagon High does now. I don't know. Maybe Elder Chaos Robe. I'd have to look that up. I don't know if Elder Chaos gives a magic damage percent or not. I'm not a pure. Let me actually look. It does give a magic strength bonus, yeah, or a magic damage bonus.
Magic damage.
Strength bonus, rather.
I feel like at some point in old school's history, and even back into RS2, magic possibly could have worked just like melee. You cast a spell. Did your spell hit, and how hard did it hit? Now we're left with dealing with all of these different factors and how they all go together, and that's because of the shadow. So you've heard us talk a lot about the shadow if you've listened to the show, but there's a problem with gear progression, and his name is Tumekin Shadow. So today we're going to try and fix that with some hypothetical non-game developer ideas that, for me, they're kind of surface level. I don't know. We didn't discuss between Oxie and I how this would go. We didn't tell each other our different ideas.
I was at home for the weekend, so I bet you Michael has like a whole like well written out list, and I went into this like, yeah, we'll just free ball. Like I have ideas, of course, but it's gonna be conversational on my end.
I don't have a list. I've got like 3 bullet points in my head, and we can start with the heavy hitters, or we can start with like the more out there easy ones. It's.
I feel like for me. Otis says go least spicy to most spicy. Honestly, if you want me to go least spicy, I feel like I don't really. They're all about the same level of spice.
Okay.
But they're just different variants, It's like it's the difference between getting the like buffalo or like the hot garlic at B-dubs. Like they're still gonna be about equally spicy, It's making my mouth water just think about it. They're gonna be about equally spicy, like more or less, But it's not like one of them is like a blazing wing that's going to like actually cause you physical pain. I don't think it might cause some people physical pain because I guess let's to talk about the problem child first. Do you have any suggestions for the shadow itself?
I have roundabout suggestions. So, I mean, my first suggestion is going to be obviously a nerf to the shadow. In the way that I understand the shadow, I've never. So I'm gonna preface this entire episode by this statement: I've never owned a shadow, I've never wielded a shadow, and I've never shot a shadow.
Dude, you're missing
All
out.
three of those are true. So take whatever I'm about to say into my microphone with that grain of salt. Okay? I think the shadow needs to be nerfed. Not only do I think we should significantly nerf it, but maybe we can buff some other weapons alongside of it and equal out the playing field. And the way that I understand the shadow is it will triple magic damage and quadruple it in TOA. Is that correct?
Mhm. Yep.
So what I want to do is I want to make the shadow only increase magic damage by 50%. So if your magic damage percentage is 30, you have now a magic percentage of 45 outside of TOA. And then we can just straight double it inside TOA. This gives Jagex way more wiggle room when it comes to adding a magic damage percentage to gear. And also, it doesn't negate the qualities of the shadow. It gives it a unique thing that says this is going to like artificially affect your magic percentage without adding any other gear. But then it also keeps it strong within TOA. Whether those numbers are absolutely correct, where I'm saying 50% and 100%, I'm not sure. But I do think that the numbers need to come down from 3 times and 4 times to something that makes it where power creep is going to creep less without taking away the uniqueness of the shadow.
Can't believe you've never used one. They're
Never,
super
not
fun.
once.
Never, not once. They are a ton of fun to use, which is, of course, like why this talking about nerfing the shadow feels bad. Unlike Michael, I use that bitch all the time. I'm getting my quiver with my shadow for the first 11 waves. Like, I love the shadow. It's a fun weapon to use, and I think it very much deserves the title of a mega rare. I think if we don't want to change anything else about the game, we're kind of at an impasse because this is where it gets tough for me. Because like my first thought was very similar to yours. When I thought about it yesterday, it was like, oh, just drop the shadow to 2 times magic damage and make it 3 times in TOA or 4 times in TOA. Who cares? Because it's almost capped at 100 anyways.
Yeah.
We're just kicking the bucket down the line.
Mhm.
Like if we just nerf how much the shadow increases magic damage, we just take the problem that we have and push it down like 5 years when we get new mage armor or new mage passives. Or like we were talking to a couple of RS3 players on the tram from the airport over to the NEC at Runefest. And we were talking about how, you know, some updates have been similar for old school and RS3 and how we thought it was really cool. And one of the things we touched on was a Raxor. And they mentioned that when Necromancy came out, there is a skill that will like, or there's an ability that will like auto kill opponents at a certain like percent threshold or something, kind of like the Executioner's axe from Leagues. And they were telling us that there was an unforeseen interaction with a Necromancy spell and the mirror back spider in Araxor, where when you cast this, like, it's like summon death or something from Necromancy, it just immediately killed the player. Because the mirror back bounced it back to you and it would just kill you if you were below like 90% health or something. So it's like unforeseen things like that where, yes, we make the shadow have less magic damage, but then we also like, we think we're safe, but then we have to worry about like, how do other magic things we put in affect the shadow as well? Or how does the shadow affect some of these magic passives that we might want to involve? And after thinking about it a little bit, this is why I said all my takes are going to kind of be equally spicy. I think we have to change how magic damage is formatted. Hear me out. I think we need 2 different types of magic damage. I think we need powered damage, and I think we could call it elemental damage, or we could call it natural damage or something, or like organic damage or some term to describe other things, because this whole problem originated way back with the Trident of the Seas. I believe the Trident of the Seas, maybe it was back with Iban's Blast, who knows, way back in the day, when this whole idea of like, you don't need to have specific runes to cast a spell, you just need the staff. Iban's Blast kind of does this because it requires, I think, death and fire to cast Iban's Blast, whereas the Trident uses runes that you put into it and scales and money and all this other shit. And boom, that's your powered staff. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And I want to say magic damage is unique to old school in the sense that it wasn't in the older games. And I only say that because I cannot think of a pre-2007 item that came with magic damage percentage on the tin. Like Arms did not have magic damage prior to like 2 years ago. Like that was added retroactively. So I don't know. Maybe magic damage is like an intrinsically old school problem. Like it could have come around with the Tormented Bracelet. I don't know. I wasn't here for it. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head when that stuff came about. But I think the whole concept of magic damage becomes difficult with the Shadow now because you just can't do anything else. You can't have anything else in the game with magic damage percentage or any piece of non-weapon, any armor piece that adds magic damage percentage, or because the Shadow is just going to outclass everything else. Yeah. I think if we change some pieces to move more laterally, kind of like they did with range and a little bit with mage with elemental, right? They tried with elemental to make it a counter to the Shadow, but it didn't matter if you already have a Shadow. Like people, I think on my bingo team, I was going to go kill Mithril Dragons in the fall. And I was like, damn, I don't have a lance. This is going to suck without Mithril Dragons. And then somebody said, oh, they're weak to like air or something. They have like an air weakness. And I was like, or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. Air, earth, fire, something. They said they had some sort of weakness. I was like, I guess I could do that. And then Nate Dogg said, oh, I just used my Shadow. I said, oh, I don't give a fuck what they're weak to then. Shadow. That's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them. Yeah. Lobster launcher. Like that's how it feels, you know? So like elemental weakness, if you already have a Shadow in Max Mage, negligible. Does not matter. I think if we changed it from powered to, or like from magic damage to power damage and elemental damage, we could take something like Ancestral. Best in slot raid reward. It now has a total for the whole set. I think Ancestral's what, like 6% magic damage for the whole set? Let me look it up. Ancestral Robes, the whole
3%
set
each, right?
offers 9%. Yeah. Yep, it offers 9%. So the Ancestral Robe set, hat, body, legs, would now offer 9% powered damage, where the Shadow still benefits from powered damage. You know, the Shadow is still like Ancestral is what you want to wear if you have a Shadow. You're going to get the most damage. Virtus, on the other hand, would then have because it's 2% per piece, or maybe we could even buff it to 9%. Virtus would have a 9% elemental damage bonus, because Virtus is designed to work with ancient magics. And if you classify elemental damage as fire, air, fire, water, earth, and then blood, ice, smoke, shadow, right? Mm-hmm. So those 8 elements are like, they benefit from elemental damage. You kind of broaden the range of what items can be used and where we can add new meaningful magic additions. The Twisted Bow rolls off of a monster's magic level. The Twisted Bow is fucking ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever used a T-Bow. I know you're very much like T-Bow. T-Bow and Bofa are basically the same thing. Trust me, they're not. And when you are fighting something that a T-Bow is good against, you feel it. Oh my God, do you feel it? Especially when that bitch is uncapped at Chambers and you're hitting like 93s on Ulm. Oh baby, do you feel it? The T-Bow has a beautiful built-in way to nerf it at certain encounters.
Yeah.
For example, Leviathan. It doesn't have a very high mage level, and the T-Bow is not good until you get to Awakened Leviathan. That's a beautiful way to nerf the T-Bow. The same thing happened when the T-Bow came out with Grardor. Grardor had like a really high mage level. From what I've been told, Grardor used to have a really high mage level, and they had to nerf it into the ground because the T-Bow was suddenly best in slot at Grardor. And that wasn't the intention, because now you could just bounce Grardor around the room kind of like you did with Zilliana.
Yeah.
You know? Basiliano was always meant to be killed by range or melee if you're a psychopath in 2007 or whenever the boss came out. I think if we're able to add a new magic damage percentage that kind of incentivizes the use of different non-powered stabs, like first of all, that puts Volatile Orb from Nightmare back into the billion GP range. Like you have the ability to auto cast standard spellbook or ancient spellbook. I think I know the volatile staff is ancient or standard, but like let's say you add an ancient equivalent to the volatile staff. You know, it's a new reward from Ritual of the Majorat, a repeatable boss after that quest comes out, and you get a volatile orb equivalent, but for the ancient spellbook where you can 4-tick cast ancient items automatically. That benefits from elemental damage percentage. That benefits from Virtus, right? Because then you can make bosses that have a particular... This is where it gets in the weeds, because you kind of can lean into the elemental damage a little bit more heavily. And it actually makes you choose, right? What's the difference in this thing's stats? What weapon should I take? Because this is the problem that Magic has. I feel like I'm talking in circles. I don't know if I'm just having an off day or what, but like with range, we just talked about range, strength, and an enemy defense and how that kind of dictates what you take, right? Do you take the T-bow? Do you take the Bofa? Do you take the blowpipe? Do you take the RCB, ZCB with rubies? That's a legitimate question for a lot of bosses in the game.
Yeah.
Are you going for big T-bow, or are you going for big naturals, or are you going for high DPS so you can kill the boss quicker? The same thing exists with melee. The scythe is one of the best melee weapons in the game. And I say one of because it is not the best for every single situation. The scythe sucks against enemies that are weak to stab. Some of them, right? The scythe sucks at 1-by-1 enemies. You know, the scythe is obviously where you're weak to slash, scythe is the play. Scythe will outdo Emberlight at Duke because it's just that good. I don't actually know if scythe outdoes Emberlight at Serb though. So I'm going to see the strategy guide to see like what you would take to Serb. I think scythe is still, scythe is still best in slot, but it's barely better than Emberlight, right? Because Serb is presumably weak to slash. I think Serb's actually weak to crush now that I'm looking at it because Inquisitor is best in slot. But Scythe doesn't serve every purpose, which is where an item like the Fang comes in. And if you don't have a Scythe, this is where an item like the Whip comes in, or the Inquisitor's Mace, or the Soul Reaper Axe, or the Rapier if you don't have you should have a Rapier, or you should have a Fang before you have a Rapier these days. But like, you know, melee has that diverse spread of like what's the best weapon to take. Range has the diverse spread of what's the best weapon to take. Mage has, if you have a shadow, use the shadow.
Or go for
and if we
go for a shadow. People are wanting them.
Yeah. It's I mean, my issue with nerfing it outright is it still needs to be considered a mega rare. If you nerf it to 50% magic damage down from 3 times magic damage, the shadow becomes like 400 mil, maybe. It's just not as powerful. And then what do you do for things like speed runs where you have like whisperer times that are designed around the shadow? You have content that is in a way designed with the shadow in mind. But it's a different design philosophy than it is for like the T-bow or the scythe, where like if you want something to not be good against scythe, make it 1-by-1, make it weak to stab. Give it a low magic level if you want it to not be good with T-bow, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's the hardest part, is figuring out how do we make the shadow more in line with the other mega rares to where there is an inherent built-in nerf, just like the T-bow has, just like the scythe has. They both have ways to nerf themselves, but I don't know of a way that the shadow ever nerfs itself other than you don't have the gear. You don't have best in slot. It's not dependent on the monster you're killing. It's dependent on your bank value. Because if your magic damage percentage is not high, your shadow's not like scaling up anything.
This is true, but it's very similar in the way that like Missouri is a marginal upgrade where the T-bow is good. Don't get me wrong, Missouri is objectively better, but in terms of like I did an Inferno with like blessed D-hide when I did my T-bow rebuild. Did the Inferno, got my second KC. The T-bow was ridiculous. It was tearing monsters apart without Missouri because it's where it was good.
Mm-hmm.
The shadow obviously is reliant on like having a harder hit, but like you got to remember it also gets accuracy improved too. So even if you're using something like Mystic, suddenly you just don't miss. Mystic is now tripled with its offensive bonuses, like the attack bonus. So even if you're not hitting high, you're still doing a lot of DPS because you just cannot miss your opponent. So like it nerfs itself, but not as effectively.
Yeah, not in a meaningful way.
That's where I feel like, the damage piece, changing how magic damage is structured, could benefit. I feel like that's the next logical step in my head, moving from elemental weaknesses to changing magic damage percentage. Don't touch some things, like if something doesn't have an elemental weakness, like I don't think Whisperer has an elemental weakness. We'll use her as an example. If Whisperer doesn't have an elemental weakness, keep it that way. And then you just know going into the fight that Shadow is going to be your best in slot pick. Whereas something like Zulrah, who has, I think, a fire weakness.
Yeah, it's fire.
Yeah, Zulrah is weak to fire. Now, suddenly, the Shadow's still pretty good, but is it better than an equivalent amount of elemental damage with a volatile Nightmare Staff and Fire Wave?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of just like the question that I have in mind. Where like you almost like we need to bring the choice back into Magic.
Yeah,
if that makes sense, because Magic has always suffered from like there's always been just like objectively the best pick for everything. Like even before Shadow came out, the quote unquote tie was between the volatile Nightmare Staff and the Sang Staff, but it didn't necessarily matter. The difference in price was like 1 billion GP between the volatile and the Sang.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. I feel like this is something that we almost need to like draw out on a whiteboard, because I don't know if I'm explaining it wrong or I am tired or what. I feel like I am talking myself around in circles. And if the audience feels the same, I sincerely apologize. Because I don't know. I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but I also feel like I'm in shambles when I'm describing.
I don't think you're talking in circles. I think the way that you're explaining it could be interpreted like you have different weaknesses that the Shadow now has to take into account. Whereas before, the Shadow is just blanket. If you have it, use it. It's good no matter what a weakness is. Dragons, everything that has, like, dragons are the most prevalent things that have weaknesses, but other monsters have weaknesses. But like, if it has a fire weakness, you are not going to cast a fire spell. You're going to use your Shadow if you have it. In your scenario, if it has a fire weakness, you're going to want to utilize items that boost fire elemental damage, and it outclasses the Shadow in that instance. Shadow is still good. You can still take your Shadow, but there's a new upper echelon of best in slot that the wiki is going to move the Shadow to the right a little bit. And something else will take its place. I still
feel like the Shadow does need a nerf. I feel like alongside this differing kind of elemental damage or whatever, it's kind of like when we had to nerf the blowpipe a little bit, where like we gave it a different passive, where like now the spec is like 100% accuracy or something, or like it's way more accurate now. But like, even if you took the Shadow and just cut it from 3 times to 2 times outside TOA and added a plethora of like, you added new damage, you added new magic damage typing, and you added new monsters that had weaknesses, and you expanded the elemental weakness log, and it wasn't just Shadow everything all the time. I feel like that's a very healthy direction for the game while keeping the Shadow at mega rare status.
Right.
An uncapped T-Bow is ridiculous. It's only uncapped in Chambers. The Scythe, funny enough, is one of the few weapons in the game that doesn't have a substantial buff inside the raid it comes from. It's one of the only mega rare, I think, that doesn't have it. Only main mega rare weapon
of the trifecta.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like the Shadow still needs a nerf outside of TOA.
Yes. Keep it strong in TOA, because nobody's complaining that you have a really strong weapon in the raid that you get the weapon in.
Because eventually we're going to hit that 100% cap. We're already in the 90s as it stands within TOA. So we get to the point where we hit 100%, the Shadow, like the magic damage inside TOA almost no longer matters, because you can't go above 100% within TOA. But if we drop it from 3 to 2, that gives us so much more headroom to add power damage as well as elemental damage typing. And power damage would also benefit things like the Sang Staff and the Trident. Like those would benefit from power damage, but the Twin Flame Staff would benefit from elemental damage. Iban's Blast, I don't know where we would put the Iban's Blast.
Well, Iban's you need to be on standard spellbook because there's the Iban's Blast, like there's the Iban's Blast spell, but you need the staff to cast it.
Yeah, that's true. Like you could put that, but like also then where do you put things like, God, I'm on the standard spellbook right now. What are they called? Like Claws of Guthix and shit. Also, not that those are going to be particularly powerful, but like those could be considered elemental. Pretty much like anything that requires runes
outside of putting them in the staff.
Yeah, outside of charging.
Yes. How do we feel about while nerfing the shadow, actually buffing other staffs in potentially a similar way, where other staffs, if they're powered, could have a percentage where they boost magic damage. So Trident could boost it by 5%. 5% automatically. Because if I'm looking at these stats correctly, you have no magic damage attached to the actual weapon. Let me look at the Trident. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you don't get magic damage based on the weapon that you're using, damage bonus percentage. But what if they did? So now instead of 0%, you have like 20% just for using the Trident. These numbers are arbitrary. Doesn't really matter. It's the more concept of you're getting a benefit for using the staff that you're using, whereas the shadow relies on the gear that you're using more heavily. It doesn't always matter, but you know, having ancestral with a shadow is more meaningful than having ancestral with a Trident because of the multiplication of the damage percentage. And then you can spread around magic damage percentages more meaningfully. Because like I think it's an absolute joke that the Sears ring is like 0.5%. What's the point? 0.5% is not a meaningful difference when you put on a ring. And then it also makes whatever the upgraded DT2 version is like more desirable, right? Because then it adds a multiplication of percentage damage to that upgrade. But 0.5% is kind of laughable in my opinion. So then if you take some of the magic damage, put it on a staff, then in order to buff other things, then you could add magic percentage damage to other things as well. And this falls kind of in line with what I was talking about with my first suggestion of if you just lowered how much the shadow boosts your magic damage, then you can move around those numbers to where it makes more sense, to where you can give the Sears ring like more than 0.5%. It could have a 3% damage. Whereas if, 3% in a normal situation for the shadow is only going to be 4.5%. In TOA, it's 6%. You can get more use out of your magic gear with other items, and the shadow still benefits from it being boosted.
I feel like we run into a very dangerous slope. This is when you first suggested it, my first thought was, hey, you've got 5 kids and 2 chairs. What do? Get 3 more chairs, kill 3 kids. I've used the example on the show before, right? Where like, I feel like if we're like, you know what if we just made everything else just like the shadow? Then we don't really have this problem. Everything fucking benefits. Like, yes, it seems like a very like Thanos snap situation. Like, we don't have enough resources. The solution must be wipe out half the galaxy.
Not more resources.
Triple the amount of resources. Not make resources more accessible to anybody. Let's just eliminate half of the galaxy's population. That was my first thought when talking about it. I feel like there is some merit in giving lower level players, the ability to have a magic damage buff. I feel like they've kind of done that with armor as opposed to weapons. But again, we're trapped at this ceiling that Ancestral, Shadow, God Cape, Tormented, Occult, Magus has built for us. You know, like
Yeah.
we're stuck in the ceiling right now. So it can't go too much higher or else we will literally hit the cap. Like the cap is not theoretical at TOA. The cap is very real and the cap will come very quickly at the Tombs of a Masket with the 100%. So like I don't know if increasing the percent damage is the direction that I would go. Is it the worst suggestion in the world? Maybe not. Maybe it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a world where there is merit to that. I also feel like if we just make armor objectively better to use, we're going to be in a really awkward spot down the line. I don't know.
Well, my thought process was like, if you have a rapier or if you have a whip, whatever melee weapon, if you have a fang, the strength, your melee strength comes from that weapon as well as from your armor. And the armor is usually less. Like your dragon boots +4. And then your fang plus whatever, 76. I don't know if that's the actual strength bonus. I haven't looked at it in a while. But you have a higher strength bonus coming from your actual weapon. And the strength bonus can go over 100, which is a pretty neat design when in terms of like, we can just keep making things stronger and we don't have to limit ourselves because, you know, players want to hit higher. And sometimes,
but again, that's because of how melee strength is calculated.
Yeah. And maybe we change magic damage percentage to feel the same. Maybe every 4% you get is a max hit and they just uncap magic percentage damage to keep it in line with like, and they call it magic strength. So instead of magic damage percentage, you have magic strength, and the strength of your magic is determined by the armor and the gear that you wear, and the shadow can increase that. And now you have a couple max hits more, but it's calculated totally different than just straight percentages, because there's no room for growth within percentages. And that's the conversation I think they're having at Jagex HQ is like, we've allowed this power creep for too long. And like I said before, they backed themselves into a corner of we've allowed the power creep to happen. And now we can't make meaningful upgrades to magic. And so we're kind of stuck because they want to develop the game. I have no doubt that Jagex is sitting there in their offices thinking magic is really cool and we want to develop content that includes upgrades, includes magic as a viable way to kill it, as a meta. We want to release new items for magic, but then they look at the poster on the wall that says, "I'm here, bitches," and it's the shadow. And so they're like, well, now our hands are tied. We can't do that. We can't make any meaningful changes until we address the elephant in the room. But it's really hard to address the elephant in the room. Like, we're even struggling as full-time players of this game. We don't know the ins and outs, how this could happen.
I'm trying to find like the highest possible strength bonus to address the shadows issue. Let me kind of break it down a little bit. Like, let's say this is not correct, but I can't find the numbers and I gotta level with you. I really don't feel like trying to find it. Let's say it's 200, right? 200 divided by 4 is what? 50, right? So your max hit with a weapon theoretically is a 50. That's reasonable for a lot of weapons in the game to hit a 50. You know, like we see higher numbers with multi-hit weapons in general, but like sometimes, like even on my dog shit Iron Man, we ran a trio with me, Ralph, and Fear. And with my little dog shit gear, Dragon Defender, Fighter Torso, Obby Legs, Serp Helm with a rapier, I think my max was like a 39, maybe a 42 with an overload. So like that's pretty good. So like your max hits a 50, right? The problem the shadow introduces is like, okay, triple that.
150.
What's 600 divided by 4? So then suddenly your max hit is 150. You could just one bang. Like, I'm killing worms right now. They have 130 HP. Could you imagine being able to one bang a Barrows brother? Walk down into the crypt.
You do that in leagues.
It's dead. Like, but that's the thing. In leagues,
it makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. Leagues, you're meant to be a demigod, you know? But if you apply that same kind of like melee strength scaling to magic and leave the shadow untouched, you've broken the game.
Well, you can't leave the magic.
You can't
leave the shadow untouched. That's the problem. You change the way that magic is calculated by giving it magic strength, and then you say you get a marginal upgrade to strength. So instead of 3 times, we're going to give you 50%. So whereas now your max hit was a 50, now it's a 75. That's less crazy, still crazy. Maybe it's 15%. Maybe it's 10%. The numbers can be balanced.
That is an insane
still insane
bonus though. But at that point, is it mega rare worthy? If an item takes your max hit from a theoretical, like with this structure you're talking about now, with this, like we change it to how melee strength is scaled. If we take an item with a max hit of 50, or you can hit a 50 with a Sang Staff, and the shadow with its little 10% multiplier, you can now hit a 55. Is that worth $1 billion GP?
I mean, you take the mindset of best in slot, right? I know you're gonna say it was never about the max hit, Michael.
Well, if we just don't care about best in slot,
no. If you go off of your own logic, is the Infernal Cape worth the extra 1? It's never about the max hit, but it is, because it has the best in slot tag attached to it. People are going to say, yes, the shadow is still best in slot because I have 5 more potential damage that I can do over something where if I take a Sang Staff, I'm getting it's less DPS. People care about that.
Okay, I get it. I understand what you're saying, right? Where the Infernal Cape adds 1 max hit, why is it worth all that trouble? And by that logic, if you don't want to get your Infernal Cape, that's a fine way to justify it, right? Everyone who has a cape knows that there is a piece of prestige that goes along with it. Prestige aside, prestige doesn't add max hits. Fine. By your logic, it only adds 1. By this scenario, right, the Infernal Cape pre-nerf added 20 max hits. The Infernal Cape was not a +4 strength bonus. It was a +80 strength bonus. And it was a fucking huge upgrade. But then we said, we don't really like the way it's affecting the game. We're going to give it a +8 instead of a +80. So you only get 1 max hit instead of the 19 additional max hits that you got from a Fire Cape. That's the problem with what you're presenting.
Yeah, but you have to rip the Band-Aid off for real solutions to work. It's going to be uncomfortable for the people who are used to hitting 100s in TOA, 90s, whatever it was, whatever the max capped is, uncapped, whatever it was in TOA. People are going to feel like this weapon isn't good anymore, but it opens the door for meaningful changes to come to the magic skill. If we go with this scenario of we nerf the shadow to where now it's a very much lower percentage, and then we change magic damage percentage to magic strength, it opens the door for other gear to shine. It opens the door for other lesser used methods, like other staves, other pieces of armor. It's just going to even things out and lessen the power creep, because we don't see power creep very much these days with like melee. Yes, there is still inherent power creep in anything that you do because the game has to progress and power does have to keep going up in incremental, meaningful ways. But magic, power creep is up here. It's like at 100. I would say melee power creep is at like a 5 or a 10 in terms of intensity. We're not worried about when a new piece of armor that's going to, maybe people are worried, but I'm not worried that Yama is dropping a new slash armor, because I know it's going to have niche uses that will benefit some content. The power creep for me is not even a consideration when I think of like brand new armor coming into the game, because we're not at that point yet.
Literally just described the problem that Magic has or doesn't have. The reason the soul armor or the demon soul, whatever it's called, the reason doesn't bother you is because Melee has a wide berth of niches that it can fit. Melee has the ability to have a Torva, an Inquisitor, and a Demon Soul armor without them stepping on each other's toes. Torva, objectively the best in slot. You want to hit hard, you go with Torva. You want higher DPS at Phazani's Nightmare, you wear Inquisitor because it has much higher crush accuracy. You want faster times at Feeder of Blood, you wear the Demon Soul armor because your Scythe is going to go nuts, even if your hammers miss, right? Maybe it's a situation where if your hammers hit, you put your Torva on, but if your hammers miss, you put your Soul armor on because it has higher accuracy. It's kind of like how you switch to the Bellator at Sodaseg, right? Maybe that is the way we use this armor, and it doesn't try to overdo it. It complements it. It rhymes with it. That's the beauty of these more niche armors. Magic doesn't have that. They're trying their best to make it with elemental weaknesses, with one-handed staves, with the ability of these new confliction gauntlets to offer whatever it's offering for one-handed weapons, right? Which it also opens up the avenue of what we haven't talked about yet, is how do we fix magic without touching the shadow? I think offering more things like the Osto Ayak Eye or whatever, is that still coming to the game? The Mage Blowpipe? Or is that coming from, is the Mage Blowpipe coming from
Yama?
The demon guy? Is that coming from Yama? Am I crazy?
We have to look. Because I have no idea.
New Delve boss rewards. The Eye of Ayak. Okay, the Eye of Ayak is still coming to the game. The Eye of Ayak is the Mage Blowpipe. That's still coming to the game from the Delve boss. Cool. That's good, right? That's going to look... I saw, I think it's like the Hunted OSRS or somebody on OSRS Twitter makes a bunch of like various designs for stuff, and the one he cooked up looks really cool. That's a great way to improve magic. I saw somebody say like buff the mages book on Twitter, right? But like that's a good way to increase it. Buff the Elidness ward. Make something like the Confliction Gauntlets more feasible and spread that across various pieces of armor where like it benefits having a mage offhand, which indirectly nerfs the shadow in a lot of places. Make the magic puddle a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I think needs to happen in order to I'm going to use the dramatic term save the magic skill in old school RuneScape. That's going to be the title of this episode, Saving Magic in Old School RuneScape. People are going to be like, that's clickbaity as shit, but we got you, didn't we? Here you are listening to our clickbait. We got you. We saved the magic skill in Old School RuneScape. And this is how. There it is, right there. And they say I'm not a content creator.
They do say that.
It's just you who says that. But like, I feel like that's where the problem lies, is the lack of diversity in how people kill shit with magic is why the shadow is a problem.
I feel like that's addressed with Melee, at least, by having different styles. Because you even mentioned it.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned it. Like
they try. They really do. They are trying so hard. And the thing is, they're not even doing a bad job with the elemental weaknesses they've added for magic. If you don't have a shadow, the elemental weaknesses do make a substantial difference. Zulrah with Twin Flame, with Fire Wave, makes a substantial difference over Ivan's Blast or over Warp Scepter. Like, it's good. The problem is it's never good enough to beat God. You know, that's the problem. It's hard to design around the shadow without fundamentally working it. And the thing is, we know this nerf is coming because we saw it happen before. You and I were there in the live stream. We were there. We saw it happen. When they said, sorry, guys, the blowpipe is getting nerfed. If you've come back to old school since like 2022, like if you came back for TOA and you're like, or you got into the game within the last like 2 or 3 years, you did not get to experience the handheld A10 Warthog that was the old blowpipe. The old blowpipe was ridiculous.
It's like a machine gun.
Like it would have been best in slot for Inferno if it could reach Zuck. And at the time, it was best in slot. It was like right behind Tebow for most of the Inferno. It was the blowpipe with Dragon Darts was absurdly strong. especially when you paired it with old Range Void, because Range Void got nerfed as well, right? Oh god, it was ridiculous. The problem with the blowpipe was that it was cheap, I think.
Yeah.
I think if the blowpipe was a billion GP, maybe we could get away with having the blowpipe be as powerful as it was. But the blowpipe was what, 3 mil when they nerfed it?
Yeah.
Which is where nerfing the shadow becomes difficult, because the shadow is like, yes, it's the cheapest mega rare. If we go onto the Grand Exchange search right now on RuneLight, it's still 1.18 billion GP. Like, if you nerf the shadow too hard, TOA is a loss of money per hour to do the raid.
Yeah.
Like, because all the other uniques are worthless. Obviously, Missouri is the best, but like, when the most expensive non-mega rare item that comes from TOA is 59 mil, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's real bad. I know the Sang Staff is 64, and that's not great either. You know, Chambers is the best money, but even Dragon Claws are 69 mil. Just trying to think of things that, like, Dragon Hunter Crossbow is 47. Who knows?
I think the conversation about like raids, purples being this much, and like they all fluctuate. There was a time when I think
they do. Yeah,
Vernix were in the bin. Rapiers have been in the bin.
100 mil of Vernix when TOA came out and the Vernix were expensive as shit.
Yeah. But then
that
like
was crazy.
Ancestral has seen rock bottom. Now it's soaring. So like things will change. I think they just have to make, you know, it ebbs and flows with content. It really does. But changing the way that Magic works without nerfing the shadow is going to be incredibly hard. But yeah, like you said, we just have to widen the pool. We have to widen the usability of other items around the shadow to make it still the best, but not always the go-to. Because I think at the end of the day, you're right. Blowpipe was the best, and it was always the go-to. Almost always.
If you didn't have a T-bow, if you didn't have a T-bow back when Blowpipe was good, because the thing is, Bofa didn't, like, they built Bofa to fill in the gap that the blowpipe left behind. If you guys are newer within the last 2 or 3 years and you have a Bofa, imagine that level of power at a 2-tick speed, like it's leagues with the blowpipe. It's ridiculous. It was so powerful. They literally made the blowpipe. They changed the Blade of Saldor drop to the enhanced crystal weapon seed and added the Bofa, the bane of many an Iron Man.
The bow of F.
Because the blowpipe left such a vacuum when it was nerfed.
And there will be vacuums if they end up nerfing the shadow. But I think there's plenty of different magic staves that are already in the game, magic weapons that are already in the game, where we didn't have a lot of range options when the blowpipe got nerfed. There wasn't something to fall back on. But there still could potentially be a vacuum when or if they actually do something substantially to nerf the shadow, that people will be fine. I say people because I probably won't have a shadow up until this point that they actually do something about it. Because like I could get spooned a shadow maybe, but I don't really want it because I don't have a good way to get soul runes right now. Soon, but did you have any other thoughts, any other bullet points you wanted to go over?
I mean, I had some things for expanding magic outside of the shadow, which I feel like this, like it's very much like a in the weeds topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say it changes combat a ton, but it changes how you look at situations. And I think an item like the Horn of Yama or whatever that Rice was telling us about that's coming with Yama, I think that could be an avenue for adding more of like a support role with mage. Like we see it a little bit some places, but the problem is still that like because we have powered staves in the game, it's not really a choice. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we have powered staves in the game, the spell book you take is just for assistance. I feel like if we I don't want to say buff that a little bit, but like if we find new ways to make bringing a spell book that you have a weapon to auto cast it with that isn't a powered staff more valuable, almost in like a support way. But again, it exists. with a skill like with something like Vengeance or Thralls or, Freezes or something like that. If we could expand that a little bit more, which is where I run into a wall because, like, how do you expand it, right? Like, you could imagine you cast like the charge spell on your friends and it makes their attacks more powerful. Like you have a spell that is effectively a red Karis as a support, right? But it doesn't work for you, so you have to be then charged back or something like that. Or like your role is you're like a range mage hybrid where like in mage you're supporting, but with range you're doing damage, like something like that, which kind of alters how we go about various boss fights in the game. And I know people don't love touching that stuff, but it's just like, I don't know, something we could do. Vacant Void said, to make elemental weaknesses more relative, you're penalized for not using the right element would feel bad to add in at this point. So pretty much like, hey, if it's weak to fire and you don't use fire, you get a nerf. That feels really bad. I entirely agree. But it's how melee works is his point. Like there's a few points where something has negative style defense. It's just less defense than others. And it's why there's such a wide puddle for melee versus magic. If that's how it was off the rip, I don't think there'd be the same issue. I just don't know if they could do it after the fact for magic, right? It would be an adjustment after the fact, I think, for magic. I think it'd be something that we would all have to take time and get used to. It's not an evolution of combat. People are still getting used to it with mage, right? Or with range, rather. People are still getting used to like, oh, is crossbow better than Bofa here? Because it's weak to like heavy ammunition, But it doesn't penalize you for bringing, like, I'm killing worms, like I said at the top of the episode. I'm killing worms with an MSBI and amethyst arrows, right? It is not as effective as killing them with an RCB with rune arrows or a ZCB with dragon arrows, right? Like or best in slot would be a dragon hunter crossbow with dragon arrow or dragon bolts, right? Not arrows, bolts. I'm not penalized for using the MSBI. I'm just not killing them as quickly. But it doesn't feel like I'm a mid-game Iron Man. Like it doesn't feel as impactful for me, Whereas if I was going on my main, I might legitimately make the decision, is it worth it for me? Like, where do I want to save time? Do I want to use the blowpipe and attack faster, or do I want to use the DHCB and hit higher? It's like that kind of trade-off, you know? Vacant Void said, it'd be best for the game. I 100% agree, but it'd be a massive change to a lot of content. Like, what do power staves look like? Maybe they have autocast styles that have their own specific elements. The Staff of the Swamp has an earth style or a water style or something like that. I think that's where it gets complicated. You just take the elements out of powered staffs. You just remove them entirely. The Trident of the Swamp has no elemental bonuses, in my mind. The Trident of the Swamp isn't an elemental staff. If you want to get an elemental bonus at a boss, you use an elemental staff. You use a twin flame. You use an ancient staff. You use what's that thing called? Volatile nightmare staff. Right? Like you use something rather than a powered staff if you want that little extra bonus, But if it doesn't have much of a difference, if it doesn't have an elemental weakness, or the elemental weakness is negligible and it doesn't matter, bring a Sank staff. Bring a Trident, or it's tough because it kind of stunts progression of the Iron Man game mode. It changes it dramatically. I know that like it would be difficult to do. It'd be an adjustment. Like I said, it would be a major adjustment. I don't think it's impossible to navigate, but it would be a very big adjustment for quite a few players, myself included.
Do you think that Jagex is like hesitant to do it because of that adjustment?
Yeah, I think they'd be stupid if they weren't.
It's such a tough one too, because I'm more of like, in terms of just thinking about hard situations, I tend to be more of like rip the Band-Aid off, get it over kind of person. If you want to fix magic, nerf the shadow. Screw the consequences, screw the hard feelings. It's going to be sucky if we do it now or if we do it later. So do it now.
Honesty without kindness is brutality. And that is not healthy for a game or a community.
I agree. But I don't see how that correlates to what I'm saying.
It does.
It's delaying the inevitable.
I don't care what you say. Fuck you. We're nerfing the shadow.
No.
We've dropped the shadow. No, hold on.
I do care what you're saying. I do care what you're saying. I don't want to misconstrue my statement to say I don't care about the players, by saying, I'm just going to do it. Because they wouldn't be doing anything if they didn't care about the players. If they didn't care what the players thought, they would just leave the shadow as it is. But the only reason that they're even having this conversation of we need to nerf the shadow is because they do. And I agree with that statement. I agree with that sentiment of we care about this game and we want it to progress. So we have to do something. Where if I was in charge, the thing that I would do is get it done now and stop delaying the inevitable. Just nerf the shadow.
Okay. Again, that doesn't feel like a very well thought out answer. I am the person who has called for a nerf of Tamekin Shadow for like a year and a half. The weapon has been a plague on Magic. I understand it. I also don't think that if an update came out tomorrow that said, hey guys, the Shadow has gone from 3 times Magic to 50% Magic, that would be a disaster. I feel like you now have speed runs that are impossible to get without the shadow. You now have methods of doing content that have been ripped away. Like nobody enjoys when quality of life gets taken away, right? And I feel like if you try to change the power level of a weapon to that degree, because again, you do have to factor the price of it in too. The blowpipe nerf sucked ass, but you got to remember that while they quote unquote pulled the band-aid off with the blowpipe, they nerfed it, but they also buffed the spec and they gave us a new weapon to go after. They gave us something to fill the void. When you're nerfing it from the top down, you can't add something at the top end that is then just objectively better than the shadow, but in a different way. You had the cap of the twisted bow when they nerfed the blowpipe, because twisted bow was theoretically still the best range weapon in the game. Maybe not for every situation, but it was still one of the best in the game, if not overall the best. The T-bow retained its value, and the blowpipe retained its value, and the Bofa sits somewhere in the middle for both power and value and difficulty to gain, and it's perfect, right? It all works out because you gave it a nerf as well as a very thoughtful upgrade and a thoughtful way to replace it. If you just rip the Band-Aid off, we have totally fucked so many people. That's why it's like, yes, the shadow needs to be nerfed, but trying to rush this update and just nerf the shadow and pull the Band-Aid off and get it over with, then you have to scramble to pick up the pieces. You know, you don't pull the rug out from someone with no way to catch them. That's where I'm at with it. Where like, yes, I agree the shadow needs to be nerfed. I also think doing it without a very well thought out and it admittedly kind of complicated adjustment that the player base is going to have to get used to, it's not going to go well. We saw it with the blowpipe, and that's, I don't know. That's where I sit with it.
Right. My statement of like ripping the Band-Aid off was more along the lines of, in a perfect world, Jagex has a plan. They know it's going to suck. And my question to you was, would you delay it even though you know it's hard? Is Jagex delaying it even though they know it's hard?
That seems very different than the sentiment you just said. But no, if you have a completed solution to the shadow nerf, you've got to at least tell the player base about it. If you have an internal completed solution that you think is good for the game, tell the player base, because even if you have it coded and ready, you're not dropping it for another 6 months to a year. You want to know why? Because we're a community-driven game. So, like, yeah, I guess if our talk of, like, we change magic percent to magic strength and we make it like melee, or we add a different kind of magic damage and we totally alter leaning on elemental weaknesses for some monsters, and, like, this is how we do it. If they have this plan in their head, tell the community about it, because it's still not coming out until late 25 at the earliest. Because we're going to get feedback and we're going to get pushback, and people were pissed about the blowpipe nerf. You were there. People were pissed about the blowpipe nerf because it felt real bad.
Yeah, and I think that's what's driving them to keep putting off the shadow. They couldn't give us a complete sentence of like when or how they're going to adjust it. They just said, you know what? At some point.
Because as we've discussed, it's so much more intricate than that. It's not turn down the numbers. Sorry, guy. It's not like we did in bingo, Oops, sorry, we made the thresholds too high. We've lowered them now. Teehee. It's not that easy when you're talking about a raid mega rare that is 1.1 billion GP and integral to a more than a handful of combat encounters in the game. I'm using my shadow to get my quiver, right? Like it's not a meaningless weapon, and it sits at the top. Like I get it. I understand your sentiment of like, if you have it, do it. I think if you have it done, which I guarantee you they don't.
Yeah, I don't think they
you've
do.
Got to say something.
I don't
You've
think
got
they
to
do.
say something, and I don't think it's the community pushback that they're afraid of. They know people are going to be pissed. They know people are going to be pissed. They also know people are going to be pissed if they keep adding these like boo-hoo, la-di-da, meaningless, like, it's a 0.3% mage upgrade. Fuck you. Don't even add it to the game. I don't care. They know people are going to be annoyed if you do that too. So, like, okay, cool. They know people are going to be upset. They need to be able to present people with something so that when they say, hey, the shadow is getting nerfed, we're not changing our minds, but we are open to interpretation of how we should fill the void. Here are our suggestions. And no, we will not take don't nerf the shadow as a response. They even said in the blog post, get your cannons ready. Literally, I'm going to see if I can find it right here. Yeah, we're willing to make a commitment to make magic better, is pretty much what they're saying. It. The fundamental issue with Tamek and Shadow that effectively dictate what we can and can't do for any discussion around magic rewards. We don't like having our hands tied, and it's clear that you don't either. Unfortunately, we don't believe we'll be able to make adjustments to a prestigious, valuable weapon like the Shadow and stick the landing on any changes alongside all the other work we're doing for Varlamore. Like, they know it's going to be complex. They're not afraid of player feedback. They encourage angry player feedback if they don't do their job. They say, get your cannons, get to Falador, and start a riot if we don't do it right. So I don't think it's like, oh God, well, what if the player base says that the player base are going to be pissed no matter what? So they don't have a solution.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
I mean, they're going to, yeah, I think they're way more damned if they don't. But I suppose that's a bridge that we will cross in the future. I don't know. But it's going to be a rocky one. It's going to be a rocky one when the day comes we do nerf the Shadow. It's going to be a rough day. People are not going to be happy with that. I'm going to be sad that we're nerfing the Shadow in a way. I'm going to be thrilled we're nerfing the Shadow. I'm going to make that very clear. The Shadow does need to be nerfed, but it is going to be very sad when we have to use our Shadows for the last time, hitting stupid high numbers outside of TOA. It's going to be okay. We're going to be okay, you know? If you guys have any magic suggestions, drop them in the Xpwaste chat.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
I do also want to just clarify and get on the same page that when I asked, do you think Jagex is hesitant to do something because it would upset their player base? That was a hypothetical, not saying Jagex has a solution that they're holding back. Kind of like ripped into me for saying like Jagex is holding information and they're scared to do it. No, I don't think that they have any solutions on the table.
I love the angry southern accent that I get.
Michael's an idiot.
I'm gonna start arguing with Michael in that deep voice southern accent because I don't know where it came from.
Play Red Dead Redemption.
We'll see. Maybe. I don't know.
But no, I don't think that they have a solution. I don't think that they have anything. Maybe they do. Like, I'll say this. I don't think that they have a coded solution that is ready to hit go. Nothing to that effect is even being considered. So my question was more simply, do you think that this whole conversation about the Shadow has taken this long because they have been hesitant about player reactions? Because it's been a while. The raid has been in the game for a long time, and they've known about magic percentage damage boosts for a long time, and they've been sitting on their hands with like, okay, this now has they did the whole rebalance of magic damage a while back, where they moved around the numbers.
I think you gotta see where it fits in the ecosystem before you can say that, right? Like they didn't foresee these things being problems when they released. That's fine, but you still got to be able to foresee where it fits, right? Like obviously they've known that this has been a bit of an issue for a while, but on the same token, you can't just like be like, oh, yep, this was bad. Sorry. Then you get into like, it makes this game into like an FPS game where people are like, you're nerfing shit every single update. And you're changing the meta every single update because like you're trying to keep it quote unquote sound and competitive or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to see where it falls. The Fang did not fall in a very good spot, and they knew that because the Fang was getting in the way of other mega rares. The Fang was getting in the way of where Scythe should be, and that wasn't okay, right? Shadow is in an opposite spot where, as the king, it is the king. There is no beating the Shadow, and you have to find a way to take that into account properly. You got to see where it fits into the ecosystem, and more importantly, see what you need to do to pull it out. If you're going to remove this thing as it stands from the ecosystem of Magic combat, how do we keep the environment from falling apart? That's the tricky part. You know, I think that's why it took so long. Maybe I'm giving Jagex too much credit. Who knows? They have yet to do anything outside of the membership survey that has made me think these guys are fucking idiots. So I feel like we're going to be fine, but who's to say? You know, I've eaten my words before, though I'm a little bit more optimistic that this time I'm not going to.
So, in the end, do you think we did what our clickbait title said we did? Did we fix Magic in old school RuneScape?
Possibly, yes. I think we offered very good, intuitive, unheard of solutions to some of these things. And I think that our clickbait ass title is accurate. We proposed good fixes to the Magic skill that I don't think have no legs to stand on. It's not like we're saying like, what if we fucking added necromancy? Or what if we did like a bunch of crazy stuff? It's like, I think our suggestions are grounded in the precedents that already exist. And we talked about that a lot last week. It's like the game will set a precedent and then we'll be unable to break it. And I think that's important to maintain. And I think that we have offered those valuable suggestions that, as always, Jagex, if you guys are listening, the suggestion is free. We don't care. Go ahead and take it. We want the Shadow to be fixed too. So
the wiki can credit us.
I don't know. We already have a wiki credit. I don't care about that. I don't care as much about our wiki
second
credit
wiki
now.
credit?
We already have one. Like, don't get me wrong. If they say, hey, we love your suggestions. Actually, this is dedicated to Michael and Oxie from the Xpwaste podcast. You guys saved Magic. Cool. That puts a lot of pressure on us to talk about shit in the future, which I don't love. But like, you know,
we did our good deed. There's no pressure.
We're there. We're there on the ribboning tail citation. We're good. I don't need anything else. It's a simple life, you know?
You're a simple man. Happy Oxie, happy life. That's all that matters.
Exactly. It really is all that matters, you know? How do you feel about taking these folks out to a break?
Send them off.
We're sending them off. Folks, we're going to go to commercial, take a little bit of time, enjoy your car ride to work or your car ride home from work. Get up, go to the bathroom if you're at work, because boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I listen to my podcasts on company time, you know? Do what you got to do, or maybe you're just at home playing RuneScape. If you're at home playing RuneScape and this is just like chilling on your second monitor, sit up straight and like, I don't know, do a farm run.
Drink some water.
Do a birdhouse run. You know, get some water, do something, you know, be a degenerate, but be a semi-healthy degenerate. We will be back after this. See you guys very soon.
Are you tired of your boring old routine of constantly gathering and banking all day just to do it all again the next? Are you ready to test the strength of both your body and your mind? If so, then an opportunity of a lifetime awaits you. My name is Certification, and I represent the White Knights of Falador. We need the best and brightest recruits to help us protect not only Asgarnia, but all of Gielinor. For the bravest and boldest, a position as proselyte may be in order, thanks to a rather ridiculous loophole. One can simply join the proselyte order, assuming you're willing to risk life and limb in a very dangerous mission that will be primarily espionage and combat, and travel to dangerous locations. But what you may sacrifice will all be worth it to say you are a member of the elite proselyte unit. when you're ready to begin your life of service, honor, and dignity, venture to Falador Park and enlist in the White Knights. And all that business about permanently cutting off your penis to join is completely idiotic. The White Knights of Falador will compensate you for the magical reversal of your genitalia.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial because I know that I sure did. Michael, how you feel about these morning recordings?
I'm torn, but I know.
Torn?
Yeah.
How are we torn?
So,
well, what tears us up on
a little into the private life of Michael. My wife and I have had a long standing agreement since we had a kid that Saturday mornings are the days that I can sleep in until whenever I want. And Sunday mornings are the days that she can sleep in until whenever she wants. So if homegirl wants to stay up until 4 a.m, I don't get to dictate when she wakes up. She could sleep till noon or 2 p.m. if she wanted to or needed to. It's her day to sleep in. Same goes for me. If I want to stay up until the wee hours of the morning on Friday, Saturday is my day. So for us to do a quote unquote morning recording on Sunday, her and I would either need to change days that we sleep in. So she sleeps in on Saturday and I sleep in on Sunday. And then I nerf that ability because I have to wake up at whatever time we record. Or I ask her to give up her morning of sleeping in so that I can start by a certain time. It's a long-winded answer, but that's why I'm torn. I like recording earlier because for us, we can have the rest of the day. For me, like, I was already kind of used to just filling the time that my son was napping. So for me, 12:30 to whenever we got done didn't feel like it was a big chunk taken out of my day because, like, it was actually the quietest part of my day. And it was the time that we recorded, but he doesn't nap anymore. So we're kind of in a weird limbo.
Yeah, it is a weird spot because, I mean, I did not know about the intrigue. Like, I've known about it, but I didn't really think about that, like, sleep in meant, like, sleep till 2.
She never does. And she probably never will, but it's just like...
It's the thing you guys have established. Yeah, It's a thing you guys have established. Shouldn't really be mucking all over that, Like, I get it. That bit I do understand. Yeah. I gotta tell you, I'm getting, I want to say real sick of the afternoon recordings, but like going live at 1:30 p.m. and getting done recording at 5 p.m. is a lot. So, like, I don't always love it, but you know what? We'll continue to play it by ear and see who does what. Because unlike you, I don't have anything else to do yet. Like, yes and no. It's like, I feel like when we're done recording, it's like, all right, go to the gym and then get ready for work and then just wait to fall asleep for work the next day. So, like, I am also torn about my stance on it. But you know what? That's neither here nor there right now. Michael and I will continue to talk about that as we go. But for right now, we are, however, talking about the patrons, because that's the bit that we do when we come back. We discuss the patrons, the lovely folks in our Patreon who support us at all tiers. Shout out to the Gnome Child. Specifically, we do like to talk about new people who have joined the Wise Old Man tier. That's your perk. When you join it for the first time, you do get a shout out. And today we're shouting out Dan O. Welcome, Dan O. Welcome to the Wise Old Man tier. Your name, as well as the name of every other Wise Old Man, is currently on screen right now. So go ahead and give that a look. Go look at who's on there. See if you're a fan. See if you're not a fan. Call people out if their names are on there and they're not supposed to be. Or call us out if their names aren't on there and they're supposed to be. But either way, this is where the people lie. This is where the people lie. These are the wise old men. Moving on to our KBD tier of folks, though. These are the folks who subscribe at our what used to be highest tier, but now it's our second highest tier, and they start getting their names out on the podcast. So, big shout out to Six Dicks Insider, Brooks 70, my dad, hi dad, Cloud Kicker, Dicky Bird, Elite Oreo Dunker, Jax GIM, JX Riot, Lil Drakey, our third favorite Patreon supporter, Ralph, Rum Metal 15, Rylithian, Sparky Life, The Big G Jordy, and Warbertroning. Thank you guys for supporting at that tier. We love you guys. I hope you guys can stop by the recording booth chat and hang out. We'd love to see you guys here. Sometimes we see KBD tier folks. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. Either way, you guys are wonderful, and it'd be great to see more of you in the booth. But yeah, you guys are awesome. We got one more tier of folks to read, and that's our Jad tier. These are the folks who subscribe at now the true highest tier for their shirts. So, kicking us off in the Jad tier, we have Captain Crash, Kyrandia, Mithril Fork, Petite River, Rack Roll, and Waloznik. Thank you. Your support is immense and means the world to us. I've said it once, but I haven't said it for a very long time. Being in the Jad tier does mean, being in any tier, frankly, means a lot to us. But like the Jad tier was something we established to help get through a difficult time. And we are still trying to offer you guys the highest reward possible for that. And we hope you guys are still satisfied by it. If you're not, let us know. And we will kind of like do what we can to change that and make it as meaningful and valuable for you guys as possible. But yeah, with that is the Patreon. If you would like to subscribe, head on over to patreon.com/Xpwaste. Follow for free. I don't know. Follow for free if you want. You can also subscribe for as little as $1 a month. Like I said, shout out once again to the Gnome Child. 2 shout outs in one episode. That's actually pretty crazy. But this is where I am going to say that we are done advertising, and I'm going to throw it over to Michael, who's going to give us the community question this week, because your boy hasn't had time to do Achievement of the Week. So I'm going to see if I can machine gun Achievement of the Week while Michael does the community question. Don't give me that look like I haven't been home all weekend. When am I going to do Achievement of the Week when I'm at home? We've been doing this together for 4 years. Come on, big dog. You know how the game goes.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I was getting ready to say it, but I'll just say it. It's going to be a shorter community question this week because we don't have very many. So good luck to Oxie on his speed run. It's community question time, folks. Last week we asked you guys, if you could have a houseboat party, what NPCs would you invite? We're going to start on YouTube this time. A little curveball for y'all because there's only one. Soul X Society says, I would have Romeo on my boat, take to a deserted island, and leave him there. Poor Romeo.
Harsh. Deserved, but harsh.
We have another one, actually. Sorry, I miscounted. There's 2 on YouTube. Looney TNT says, Duke is who I would invite, just so I'm not the only big dude on the boat. Like Duke Succulus. Not the Duke.
Maybe the Duke's a big boy. Who knows?
Maybe. Moving on over now to our Spotify comments. Melvin Man says, I would bring Bill Teach because he's the original naval combat champ from the Cabin Fever quest. Maybe with sailing, we get Cabin Fever 2. Cabin Feverer. Dude, Melvin Man's answer is always a good time. Always a good time. Next up, Fizzman15 says, I'd invite the Gnome restaurant crew, which will ensure the food and drinks we get are top quality. And who knows, maybe I'll be able to steal a scarf. So I'm thinking about the scarves now. And like, in terms of how they look on the player, they look normal. But they're made for a gnome. Are they not like oversized scarves for a gnome?
They might be.
Interesting. Next up, Rumby Tumbles says, as long as Roger the Crocodile shows up, that's all the party we need. Is Roger an NPC?
Yeah.
Is this from like the TOA? Like something that happened with TOA?
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, for the community question, Numbers says, I'd have to invite the helpful spirit from TOA. They could just pass out smelling salts to all the partygoers.
That's just drugs at that point.
Just drugs.
It's just straight up drugs.
There's an honorable mention from Nick on Spotify. He says, okay, serious question. Why the actual F does it cost money to cast plank make? Like, where is that money going? I understand it would make the sawmill useless, but it's 87 magic. So it's not like you don't have to put a lot of effort into magic first. And I tend to agree. I think that the plank make costing money is just a weird mechanic. Like for the sawmill, it makes sense. You're literally paying somebody to turn the logs, do their craft, paying somebody to do it for you. You give them the logs, they instantaneously turn into planks for an exchange of GP. Plank make, you're sitting there cutting each individual log into a plank, and it costs you money to do the thing yourself. Who gets the money? It's not the GE tax, not the GE, it's not any sort of kingdom or deity. It's just deleted. It's stupid. Make plank make free. All that being said, though, that's going to do it for community question. Thank you so much to everyone who answered last week's question. If you want to answer this week's question, it will be, what is one piece of armor or weapon that you could make completely OP by either a stat boost or a benefit that is attached to it? Specifically for magic. So one piece of magic armor or weapon that you can make OP just like the shadow with a stat boost or benefit. Let us know in the comment section on Spotify or under the pinned comment of this YouTube video. Throwing it on over now to Oxie for Achievement of the Week.
Look at me. I'm looking back up at the camera. That means we're done. It's Achievement of the Week time. Y'all did so much killing. Almost no killing and so much killing this week. We're actually going to start off with combat. That's how few combat achievements we have. But there's still interesting ones at that. So big shout out to Elusive Jerry, Sonberg7, and Mothpoet for all achieving their first fire cape. You know, I say we don't have a lot of combat. We don't have a lot of numbers, but to say that your first fire cape is not a notable achievement is a fallacy in itself. Congratulations on your first fire cape, fellas. Huge achievement. Moving on, Ibu, one of our lead boss tutors, has just earned his Master Combat achievement. So he's got the Verzik helm. And I think that makes it so that only one person who's involved in the lead boss tutor program doesn't have his Master Combat achievements. And it's me. So shout out to you, Ibu. Thanks. I don't know why I'm thanking you for doing that, but congratulations to you. Speaking of things I don't have, we have 3 quivers this week. Trizzy, Narad, and Wish Cave all achieved their Dishonest quiver for the first time. I don't know what to say, guys. I envy you. You didn't get hit by the Wave 6 brick wall, it seems, and I'm proud of you guys for that. Next step is the Inferno if you don't have it. But otherwise, the next step is to bless it. You want to know why? Because you're not poor. All right, get out there, bless the quiver, and roll with it. You know, proud of you guys. Hopefully the soul fight didn't take you too many attempts, because I really don't want to do like 10 souls to get the quiver. So I'm hopeful that you guys had it easy. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully y'all had it easy. Moving on over to the miscellaneous category this week, we do have 2 brand new quest capes with the Pistachio Paladin and Looney. We also have 2 diary capes with Ja Dead and Antics, aka Ja Achievement Diary and Diary Antics, I think is how we're doing that now. And then there's another miscellaneous achievement, but I think I'm actually going to group this in with one of the other 99s because it's frankly absurd. So we're going to put a pause on that miscellaneous and we're going to come back. There are so many 99s this week. It's only been a week and we have a plethora of 99s. So kicking us off in the skilling category, Fishy Bun, just after we stopped recording last week, achieved 99 attack. My boy Soggy achieved 99 attack as well. Rock Arm Man achieved, you're not going to believe this, 99 attack as well as 99 farming. I promise it wasn't coordinated, though there are a lot of the same 99s this week. It's kind of crazy. C-Mac achieved 99 hit points. My former bingo teammate, my boy Blitz, and one of our, the new, maybe the Pope is the right word? One of the new religious leaders of the Church of Bear.
Yes.
Blitz achieved 99 range at Bear, funny enough. Bob Dole achieved 99 thieving. I Smash Dads achieved 99 defense. Smash. Saga 7 achieved 99 fire making. I don't know why I thought that was farming. I've had the same codes for years. FM is fire making, you guys, because Saga 7 got 99 fire making. Smurfed RNG achieved 99 mage. B Daddy Casper achieved 99 wood cutting and 99 crafting. Rip Oppie achieved 99 hit points. Dro also achieved 99 hit points. I gotta make a little bit more dramatic. Michael from the Xpwaste podcast achieved 99 mage. Pew, 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 pew. Back to my seat here. Scoot forward a bit. Michael's probably going to cut all that out. Clay Torres achieved 99 wood cutting. Monkey Bonana achieved 99 cooking. Gin Junkie achieved 99 mage. Flagrant Beef achieved 99 defense. Sparky Life achieved 99 hit points. C Miner 7 achieved 99 mining. Raccoon achieved 99 fletching. For Vitney on Road to Max 2 Electric Boogaloo finished his favorite skill, which I thought he would save for last because of how much he likes it. He got agility done. Brode achieved 99 cooking. Hopefully the surgery went well for the misses. Main Sequence achieved 99 mage. And Swole got his first 99 last night. Swole got 99 mage. He said, we're going to the Champions Guild. Range. Sorry, not mage, range. I was there. He said, hey, we're going to the Champions Guild. Everybody meet me there at the Champions Guild. He said, all right, sweet. See you there. No problem. We go there, and he said, a wise man once said, you can't ever get a 99 before you get another particular cape. He said, I worked to prove you wrong over the last year. Because apparently I said this in our anniversary stream when Michael was drunk, talking about the fucking Champions cape. I said it's not possible. Apparently, I said it's not possible to get a Champions cape before you get 99 range because it just doesn't seem possible. Swole said, and I took it personally, Swole achieved his fucking Champions cape literally 3 minutes before he got 99 range. He told me he got the Champions cape or he got all the scrolls with 300k XP left in range. He got so close.
It's down to the wire.
To 99 range. Literally down to the wire. Swole, you got to post your KCs in the Xpwaste chat. I got to see what your KCs were for some of these because there's no way it took you like 20,000 lesser demons. Like surely you had to get spooned a majority of them.
He said he was spooned
or
for
you just
a couple of them.
Killed them all with melee. Gin Junkie in the recording booth chat says, Swole is built different. The padded cell is scared of him. Yeah, you're goddamn right it is. Because that is truly absurd. And I honestly, I don't even remember I said that. But Swole was like, yep, it proved you wrong. I'm like, dog, goddamn. That's crazy.
So he killed 14,000 goblins, 9,000 ghouls, and 13,000 zombies. Those were his longest grinds, and he said he was under rate for all of the other ones.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is
built different.
It is absolutely built different. That is built different to a degree that I've yet to see. So, Swole, my friend, congratulations to you, dog. You made me eat my own words, and I don't even have like a actually that's just crazy. Sorry I couldn't join VC last night. But like, man, that's just crazy. We do have a few more achievements. So achievement of the week is not quite done because Michael from the Xpwaste podcast and Green Ben both achieved 2K total last night. And then finally, Hypaflare maxed his account. He maxed it on mobile. I don't know if he did the entire thing on mobile, but he did max his account. So Hypaflare, congratulations on the big 2277. You've maxed before Sailing came out. It's a hell of an achievement. Hell yeah. Morpha in the CC just got the easy Wilderness Diary and then got murdered immediately. So I don't know what happened, but that's kind of funny. But yeah, Hypaflare, congratulations on 2277. It's a hell of a grind and it's done. And I'm proud of you. And I'm proud of all of you who did something in Achievement of the Week this week. If you did something awesome and you want to tell us about it, head over to discord.gg/OSRSTNL. Post about it in our Levels and Achievements channel. If you post it anywhere else, I got to level with you. I'm not going to see it when I'm doing my sheet for Achievement of the Week. Levels and Achievements is the place to go. But the Discord itself is thriving. There's a bunch of places to go and chat and hang out. And as always, let's scroll on down here. The Sunday Raiders. Seems like the Sunday Raiders are doing Sunday Rune Dragons. But the Sunday Raiders are still there. The population of folks who keep this Discord alive is always around. Come hang out because we are, what is it, Michael? Objectively, the best RuneScape Discord
ever
in the world.
In the world.
We're amazing. We're amazing. And there's no other way to slice it. I'm gonna throw it over to Michael this week, and I'm just gonna let him do the rest. I'm worried I'm gonna freak him out if I ask him for a fun question these days. So go ahead and do the next section of the show, and you can guide it from there.
This is where I'm going to talk about the fun question.
Holy shit, a fun question.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So this fun question.
Was not expecting that
Whoa,
one, boys. Woo.
whoa. This fun question comes to us in the form of a postcard. Mr. Fear Garden himself sent a postcard from Japan. This is
Space
Mount
or no space?
Fiji. Both of them at the same time. He didn't sign it, which is fine. But, he put a space. He did sign it. And I'll read it to you. Hello, Xpwaste.
I think it's Mount Fuji, not Fiji.
You're right. It's
What?
Mount Fuji. I'm an idiot. Hello, Xpwaste. This is Fear Space Garden coming at you from Japan. Hope the grinds are going well. GIM raids when I get back? Question mark. Fun question. After London, where would you like to travel next? In country or out of country is fine. Thank you, Fear, for the postcard and the fun question. Where would we like to travel next? Is it we or just like general separate
Yeah,
travel?
I was gonna say, is it okay? I know we've already talked about where we want to go for Xpwaste. Let's take Xpwaste off the table. You're not traveling with me. Let's guide the direction of this, because Fear went to Japan for a vacation. So we're going to talk about, you're just going on a casual vacation. Oxie is not involved. Xpwaste is not involved. Where are you going? Where do you want to go?
I literally just saw a TikTok about a all-inclusive resort in Mexico where you can just sit by the beach, drink, eat, do whatever you want to do. And I was just I was like, I need to talk to my wife about eventually, when my son gets a little older, we need to do that. You know, we need a second honeymoon, if you will. And I don't know. I think it would be really fun to go to an all-inclusive resort and just sit by the beach and drink and have fun. But I think somewhere warm, sunny, not too warm. I want a mild climate. So somewhere that has a beach that's not like incredibly hot, where you're not going to burn your feet on the sand if you step on it with your bare feet. Maybe somewhere in California. Although the beaches in California are kind of cold. I don't know, dude. But it's probably going to be like, if I had to realistically think, probably the Pacific Northwest, because I'd like to see that part of the world, part of the US rather. And then I would love to go to Sweden or Switzerland, or I know they're two different places, but like Sweden sounds like a fun country, but Switzerland, the mountains and the travel, all of that is beautiful. Iceland is also on my list of places to go. There's so many. I just want to like win the lottery and travel the world. You wouldn't catch me at home base if I won the lottery.
You'd catch me there. I'm the type, like, if I won the lottery, there'd be signs.
Oh, there would be signs.
Like, I don't even know what I would do. I don't know what I would do if I won the lottery, if I'm being entirely honest with you.
Please tell me you wouldn't buy one of those houses in Flint.
Maybe I'd buy like a nicer one. You know?
Oh, 110,000. Definitely. That's a nice one.
Okay, let me break down. Let me tangent off the fun question. Right. First of all, you want to go to Switzerland, see nice mountains. I went to Montreux and I really liked it. I really enjoyed Montreux. I was there for a day trip. You might like it there. It's very nice views. Here's my thing with the lottery, right? When I first moved to the city I live in right now, somebody in the city that I lived in won a like $1.6 billion Mega Millions. If you take the cash option for that, that's like 900 mil just like in your pocket. Like, we talk in the sense of RuneScape of like, oh, 900 mil, that's life-changing money. Do you guys have any idea what 900 million US dollars would do to a person's life? You know how hard it is to even find a bank that would allow you to have 900 mil stored in it? That's crazy. And honestly, if I won that kind of money, I don't even know what I would do. Like, I am a single man. I have no partner. I have no children. I have 2 cats. I have 2 beautiful ladies and a job that I quite enjoy doing, though admittedly I do it too much. I think if I won the lottery, the first major purchase I would make is pay off the student loans of literally everyone I have ever. Like if I won that Mega Millions and I got 800 million US dollars, the student loans of everyone I've ever met will just be gone like that. Thanos snap, no more student loans, pay off your house, pay off your medical bills. The people around me are not going to live in debt. Cool. That's all cool. I'd maybe buy myself a nice new car, though I don't know anything about cars to be like, oh yeah, that's definitely the car. Like I don't need multiple cars. I need one. Give me like a nice Chevy Suburban or something. I don't really have the desire to have like mainly I like the Suburban because a lot of people can fit in it and is rugged for long trips. Like cool. I had one and I really liked it as a kid. As a teenager, when I was in college when I had it. Like I'd probably move out of this apartment because I'm getting kind of sick of it.
You say probably, like you'd have to consider it. One tick, you're out of that apartment if you have $900 million.
But like, where am I going to go?
To a house. You're going to buy a house. Or you're going to buy a nicer apartment somewhere else that you actually like. Closer to what you do every day.
Even if I bought myself a nice house, it's like, it can't be too nice. I'm one guy. I'm one, like, honestly, if I had that level of like, fuck you money, there's a golf course not far from where I live. And it's like an old abandoned golf course. Like nobody lives there anymore. And I would just like buy it and turn it into a nature preserve. That's my diabolical billionaire plan.
We've talked about this before.
I'm going to be a pompous asshole if I ever become a billionaire. And I'm going to do shit to just outdo all the other billionaires. Like the Oxie Natural History Foundation is going to be the most popular organization in the world. And it's just so that I can slap my dick on the table when I'm in the same room as other billionaires. Like obviously, yeah, public works, cool. Would love to have more money into that and like free museums and shit, free zoos and shit, free nature preserves. Like that'd be great. Cass Cleric said if Oxie won the lottery, he'd probably have a quiver. Man.
Followed up by, oh shit, I take back my previous comment.
Man, you know what? I gotta get back to the fun question now, man.
Well, I want to talk about my lottery. Man, I would travel. Also, I would buy myself.
But that's the point of the fun question.
I would buy myself a private plane, not a private jet.
Taylor Swift.
I would buy myself a plane that I can fly. I want to learn how to fly a plane and travel via a plane to other places. I think it'd be so cool to fly. No, I don't want a private jet. No, screw that. I want to fly myself. Do you call me Taylor Swift?
Oh, Moose. Yeah. Moose said Oxy's not going to buy Jagex. Low key, if Jagex was affordable enough, I would buy it. And I would be the most like hands-off CEO ever. If I bought Jagex, I'd be like, all right, old school, keep doing what you're doing. RS3, we're going to send out a survey a week to the players, all 50 of them. And we're going to see what they want with the monetization system in this game. Because I have enough money to keep this game going for 50 years. And I want to make this bitch a little bit more player-centric. So, like, how do we do that? Because like, I don't give a fuck about microtransactions. The RS3 players really want them. Sure, keep them. I don't care. But, like, maybe we move to a polling system like old school does.
I think RSA should have a polling system.
I don't know what that would do to the devs. But I don't know what that would do to the devs. Like, obviously, having met a lot of them at RuneFest, like, the devs on RS3 are very passionate about what they do. And it would kind of suck to, like, it sucks to be able to work on a vision and then have someone who has no idea about what you want come in after years of having that own freedom and be like, I don't like it. Throw it away. Who knows? Where would I want to travel, though, to answer Fear's question? I've always wanted to see a salmon run or a herring run. I'd always want to go up to like Alaska or, northwestern Canada and just watch all the wildlife there. I'd love to see whales and sharks and bears and wolves and eagles and salmon and all that. Michael's shivering. I know it's going to be cold.
No.
It's going to be worth it.
I have a weird, it's not weird. I have a fear of the deep ocean.
Yeah.
So, like, whales are one of my favorite animals just because they terrify me. I'm shivering because the thought of it scares me.
That's the most podcast bro thing I think I've ever heard you say.
Have you
Bro, they're my favorites because they're just so scary.
Have you seen my
man.
tattoo?
Look at the power and the fear in my tattoo. Oh my god! Like when you go to watch a salmon run, it's off the coast, right? Like
yeah, but I'm not diving down in the ocean with a whale or a shark.
You don't get in the water.
Yes, you do.
With these animals.
I've seen people get in the water. If you're rich, what are you going to do? Sorry, we're not talking lottery anymore. We're just talking travel.
I don't care. I could have negative money in my bank account. If I go on a whale watching thing and there are many like humpback whales and they're doing the thing where they circle the fish and they all come up at the same time, I'm sticking my head in the water and I am going to listen to what they sound like underwater. That's what I'm going to do. 100%. If I get my head taken off by a shark, oh well, worth it. You know? Salmon sharks probably aren't going to attack people, right? Mm. As long as you're not trying to like get in the water with like an orca.
I don't know if orcas scare me, but they definitely scare a little interest into me because they're generally not aggressive towards humans, but they're one of the most predatory whales out there.
Orcas are debatably the top predator everywhere they are. There's I hate the videos of people who are like paddleboarding and like an orca will swim up on them. I don't think you guys understand. It's not like a shark where they're like mistaking it for a seal. Like that motherfucker sees you and it knows what you are, right?
Yeah.
Like the orcas are funny enough. Chaos Clark says they kill shit just for existing. They kill for sport. They don't do that with people.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless you're one of those assholes in the yachts.
Yeah, they're not aggressive towards humans.
But
they play with their food.
A little bit, yeah. They're kind of sick and twisted. But like I feel like an orca, if it's not starving to death, is not going to eat a human.
Yet.
And I mean, unless you're one of those assholes on the yachts, in which case I'm joining the orca war on the side of the orcas. And I hope all the yachts sink. Even if you know it's not going to attack you, that's horrifying. That's such a horribly scary experience to be in the water with an orca that you just know is like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him. Yep. Hate it. No thanks. No thanks, dog.
Bro.
Yeah.
There was a video of a dude getting swallowed by a whale and then like spit back out. He was on a little raft. That's terrifying.
Oh, those are
but it was
silly
on accident because he was in
whales.
He was in their food. He was just like swimming around and.
Yep. I don't know. I think where else would I want to go? There's a lot of places. I'd love to go to spots in Africa. I'd love to do safaris. Love to go cage diving. You would not like cage diving, I don't think.
No.
Love to go cage diving by Seal Island. That's always been a fun thing I've wanted to do. The big great whites live around there. I'd love to go see that. That'd be super cool.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd ever want to bungee jump. I'd be worried my fat ass would break the cord. So I don't know if I'd ever want to go. I'd love to go on safari. Not hunting, but I would love to go like on an African wild safari. I think that'd be fun. I'd love to see more of the natural wonders in the world. You know, like the Aurora Borealis. I've technically seen it living in Michigan, but like not to the extent of like being in the Arctic Circle. Cass Clark says skydiving. Yeah, I'd like to go skydiving if I was with someone. Like fully strap me to another grown man's chest who can support us on a parachute and I would skydive. If you tell me, hey, jump out of a plane yourself, I'm so afraid of heights, I'm not going to enjoy that very much. But like the 7 natural wonders of the world, I think the only major wonder of the world that is like man-made, that is still existent, is the pyramids of Giza. I would go see those. Those are cool, but I've heard they're kind of weird. Like you look at them from one angle, they're these big majestic pyramids. You look at them from the other angle and there's like a Pizza Hut in the background because it's very developed in that part of Giza at this point. So I would still go. It would be fun. Not hunting wild boars out of a helicopter with a machine gun. No, I don't think I would do that. But yeah, Chaos Cleric says you don't jump out of a plane. You would hit your head. You just fall. It doesn't matter, dude. Hit me with the this is Sparta and kick me out of the plane. I don't care, dude. I want to be strapped to someone who knows what they're doing.
You can jump
That's my
forward.
only caveat.
You jump, you leap. That's a funny joke, though.
I don't know. Just saying, man. Yeah, there's lots of things I'd like to do. Lots of places I'd like to go see. Very nature based, though. At this point, I've seen a lot of
The
cities.
architectures.
I'd like to see more cities, obviously, but I want to see, nature.
Nature.
Good question, Fear. Fun.
Thank you, Fear. And if you want to ask us a fun question, you can do so many different ways. You could be like Fear Space Garden and send us a postcard. This one's going to go back on the wall somewhere. If we get more postcards, maybe I'll just fill in the spot around my head and there will be a whole thing. And maybe I'll have to move it so you guys can see them. That would be cool. But that's going to do it for the fun question. You can ask us many different ways. We have a plethora of them right now because I've had somebody DM me, and then we've had people post them in the Xpwaste chat. So we're going to have a pretty big backlog, but keep asking. You can send it in DMs. You can post it in the Xpwaste chat. You can email us. You can send us a postcard, send me a carrier pigeon, whatever you got to do to get the fun question to us, for us to answer it, do it.
Hell yeah. Well, with that, I believe that's the end of the episode, folks. I believe when we talk about where to send fun questions, this is how we do it. This is how we close out the episode. If you guys had fun, let us know. I know this can be a bit of a controversial topic, talking about adjusting magic, but we hope you guys enjoyed the episode nonetheless. If you want more of Michael and I's lovely serenading voices, there's a link tree in the description of this episode. It'll have every link you'll ever need. Michael's been more active on TikTok. You've been reposting quite a bit of stuff on TikTok lately, so who knows? Maybe the Michael TikTok era will return and we'll get more videos by Michael. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. Follow us on all our social medias. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. Rate us on Spotify. Do all the business. Answer the community question. Engage to your heart's content. But you do that in the interim, because next week we'll have another episode for you guys. Because that's just what we do. All right, folks. We're calling it. See you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.